Hi there, this is Amy Nash with Linus Creative and the Linus Creative podcast and video and all of the things that we're trying to do on various platforms. Today we did a recording with Brian Larry as part of our Ask Amy and Brian series. And our topic of the day was social media and how we use social media. And what are the angles that we use as we have a little bit different focuses on the use of data and a little bit different methods on engaging. And Brian takes a little bit further depth in looking at some of the connectivity in engagement, whereas I'm kind of experimenting with a little bit and trying some different platforms and kind of staying the course on one really good platform with the intention to grow that. So we both have a little bit different angles with that. And that's really the beauty of how various marketers and various people that work in the digital marketing world in combination with the traditional marketing world. It's hard to make a distinction in that because I personally kind of think that that's all intertwined. But we all take a little bit different approach to that. So I felt like it was important for us to do a follow-up and to give you a little bit deeper information. So we're going to also blog this too. So if you're somebody that likes to read something instead of listening, we'll have some information on there too. So I wanted to dig into this a little bit more. I tend to lean much more towards the organic engagement world and the organic growth world of social media. I am not a big fan of the pay-to-play world of how we want to get our reach out there by paying for in a particular niche. I tried a little bit of that for a couple of events early on and just to see what kind of responses. And I don't know that it was always getting where I wanted it to be, even though I was really digging into the demographics and the psychographics pretty deeply. I feel like the organic approach is going to have a lot more strength. And there's varying reports on if the organic reach is kind of dead and that you have to be in the pay-to-play world or pay-to-reach or pay-to-advertise world. But I really think that there is a hybrid space to be in. There's probably some ways to use the paid ad component in a much better way than I did. I was doing some early launch events, so a little bit hard to target what that exact reach would be. So full well knowing that picking some of those things in the demographics were going to be a little bit harder to figure out early on, where now I could narrow in that more. But I've always loved the organic reach piece where people will share and they really are authentically engaging in your content. And that's the arena that I like to live in with social media. So I try really hard to create my own content. That's a lot of it. I will pull research and information and ideas, and then I package it up in my own way. And I tend to like a lot of graphics. So I'll pair some graphics with that, or I'll pair share and then my take on a particular article, or I'll find a video and I'll give a link and then have a little bit of why I find it important. So I try to constantly feed a little bit of that like pre-engagement thinking in it, and then how to engage in it and what is your takeaway. So I look at it as packaging up each post in a particular way. And that's the style that is just natural for me. Some shorter ones and some longer ones all kind of mixed in, but always usually having a graphic or something to represent it visually in the space is how I lean. And that tends to be the things that get the most engagement when you're looking across all different kinds of industries. Having something that is graphically pleasing is one of the things that you want to do to get a little bit deeper engagement in the social world, especially Facebook and Instagram, which are much heavier on the graphic side. It positions your brand as an authority if you're constantly putting, your logo and pieces of that in there, and then you can, get a wider recognition reach. It communicates your values, your aesthetics, and your goals really too. If you're consistent with really how you want to use that, I would recommend that as well. So the fact that I'm like sticking to one platform a little bit more really speaks to my wanting to engage in all of the connectivity in that before diluting out and going into other arenas in a really broad sense. So pick your poison in that. Many people will really like to have that broader reach and then see what sticks, and then they pick their area. I picked my area first. So find your fit in that. You're only one person, and unless you have a team doing that, you're going to need to figure out how to do that best. The next thing is to really look at what kind of effort you're putting in and using the tools for customer engagement, or using the tools of engagement well. So do you share things? Do you like things? Do you comment? What kind of engagement? Do you just scroll and click, or do you take the time to share some value or share some insight or something that gives it a little bit more oomph? That will definitely change the way people interact back with you, whether they like your comments back, whether they choose to follow. That's kind of the essence of the organic reach, is really how you engage, and how much time you spend in it. And Brian was really, really calling out the fact that you need to spend a lot of time on it. And I'm finding that you need more and more time for that, because you're going to get drawn in yourself. So having an approach of how much time you can budget for that is a good idea. I did some consulting with a gal that was starting her own kind of blog and wellness company that was spinning off from a multi-level marketing being that it has a pretty strong following culturally, where they're kind of almost militant about their products and believing that they will kind of save the world. And being able to expand some of those ideas from the product to why in a broader sense is a way to grow that, and grow that into a company beyond the multi-level marketing piece, of which you're really kind of an affiliate salesperson versus a company, based on liability and all of that kind of stuff. But when you take that leap and you start making your own translations into that, it takes a lot of time. So a piece of the coaching of that was, what is the time balance that you can allow for that, so that you can have that good quality engagement and not sacrifice, your personal life and time and all of that kind of thing. So what is the fit for that, and to still be authentic? So making sure that you are allotting that is an important piece. There's a lot of challenges to organic social media too. Like, it's becoming competitive to be out and about in there, and especially in our times now, with really being dependent on the social world for our connectivity, with COVID and with social distancing and much more time at home. Like, we're turning to these platforms more, and I think the use of that is making it a much more competitive field to be in as a marketing platform. So figuring out your fit in that, which brings me back to my first point on having really good graphics and really good content, is got to be your key. You have the challenges of all of the social media platforms changing their algorithms and their platforms and the looks and all of that stuff, because they want to improve that and be very responsive to those of us using it more, which is everyone. So you're going to see a lot more changes, and that's a challenging thing. So adapting to the changes that they're throwing at you definitely makes it harder. There's nothing more frustrating than figuring out all the ins and outs, and then all of a sudden everything's in different places and it looks different and it functions different, and but we have to kind of roll with that. So agility is your friend. And then understanding that those platforms are making a lot of money on the ad space of that. So we have to know that if we're indulging in that world of using paid ads, that we are funding the platforms and we are fueling that piece of their machine. So if you're going to work the organic route of that, know that you're going to have a little more work in that by design, because they're trying to make money. And that's, the part of business where, you can't fault them for that. But understanding how it works will help you figure out what your mix is of how much organic and how much paid, if you're going to use a little bit of both. So there's no right or wrong answers in that. As a universal kind of thing, you have to find your own fit in it. And we figure that out based on what your needs are, what is the audience you need to get to, and all of those pieces. So what does this mean for you? It really means that you need to think about how your network is an influencer. Who in your network and how in your network does information spread? Who are the influencers? Do you have their attention? Do you need their attention? Do you want their attention? All of those kinds of things. And then who are the micro influencers that kind of are in that space also, but are maybe a little quiet, but they definitely like move your content around a little bit. So being really understanding for that, and then also showing support to those people back, giving them credit for the things that they do, sharing their content. Obviously there will be a little bit of synergy in that. Embracing the visual content and media is a big piece as well. I had to pause for just a moment with my my lovely dogs making noise. But I think I was in the middle of talking about embracing visual content and visual media, and making sure that things look good, both from the still shots from videos to the graphics that are posted that are just flat content, to memes that you make and funny quotes. And all of those pieces are a part of your visual media. Using your logo in powerful ways, using colors and your branding colors in powerful ways, the fonts that you choose and the combinations of layers of fonts, all of those things play into it. Other opportunities and things that you can do is really educate your current customers, educate people in your network. If your brand is you, how do you educate them on your stance on things and your opinions? And your academic knowledge and your practical knowledge and all of the things that are part of your being. Really helping people understand that is a big piece of what your most valuable content can be to grow the organic piece of that. People want to follow things that they understand, and they want to understand things that they don't understand. So helping people along in that process is a big piece of that. And then the fourth thing that I would recommend that, you know, marketers can have a role in is really getting into online groups and communities, and building little niche communities, almost like a neighborhood online. You can have a lot of really good interaction. There's some things on LinkedIn that are doing that, so that you can have some really good conversations about things and support each other as entrepreneurs, as business people, as workers in particular roles in fields. But you can do that on almost any platform if with the proper use of hashtags, and even some of the platforms having groups and things built into them. So figuring out how to do those and create whatever group or community fits the platforms that you're using is a big piece of how to really grow that engagement and that content. So you can have very much a hybrid approach to having paid and organic, and just use it for fun, and have many layers to how you use social media. But if you're going to be intentional, thinking a little bit about how you're adding value is a big driver for more effective use of these platforms. A couple other things I wanted to cover that, so a lot of the listing that I came up with for that came from Social Pilot. They have a number of different things that you can look up, and different tips and tricks and things. I liked a little bit of the concise list that they provided in that, and I agree with a lot of those pieces. I pull a lot of content and strategy pieces from various sources that are utilizing that and helping with the strategy. So some of the platforms that are for scheduling, anything from CoSchedule, which is locally made or locally was created in Fargo, North Dakota, to Hootsuite, to TweetDeck, you know, a number of the different scheduling platforms will have really good content on how to come up with a strategy to use their tool and use their platform. And that's where you can get a lot of good pieces and parts to create your strategy from. I like to look at what are your needs and how do you fill your own needs with it, and then how do you get into the spaces of making an impact with the things that you're doing with your reach, but also using the tools that are going to make that efficient for you. So they will definitely give you some hints on that. And not every list and piece and part is going to be perfect. So if you look at multiple sources, just like you would in school for writing a paper, you have multiple sources, you'll find your strategy out of that. So that's my tactic for it. One other source that I use, there was a lovely blog post from mention.com, and that was about organic social media reach. And let me find an author for you. It's Matt Banner wrote a great article about that. And there was just some highlights of what he wrote that were important that you could use, focusing on getting your efforts and your things in the right places, and really using data and demographic data and the time of day and all of those kinds of things to try to figure out what is the right fit for you is a great place to start. And you can even ask your audience so that you know from them when are good times to post, what they're looking to see. The little bit of what we're doing with Ask Amy and Brian is just simply asking people, what do you want to know? And you ask us the questions, and we are happy to answer them. So little by little, we're getting a little bit of comments and DMs and stuff to let us know that. But more is always better. So we have good direction, and we're answering the things that you want to hear. The same goes for when you apply that to your customers. Just ask them and find those things out. Look at how often people share things. If they think it is of value, they will share it at more enthusiasm than they would just simply, a like or a little heart or whatever platform you're using. And look at what some of your competitors are doing too. They'll just inspire you to help lift each other up too. Competition should make the whole better. Try to optimize your social media profiles a little bit. Try to figure out ways to have them have a little recognition between them, whether it be a little bit of the look or the usernames or whatever that is, but have them connect in some way, shape, or form visually so that you have a little bit of content understanding between them. And then look at posting things that are fairly evergreen, that they don't have dates and they don't have timelines that will run out. So you're working smarter, not harder. You're doing things with intention and purpose, and naturally the connections will start being made for people that are using it. And then really looking at some of the data and the times that you post. Those are good things to look at. This author really goes into some of the things that you should be looking at in greater depth, but the takeaway is to look at what the information is. You may not even be seeing a lot of likes and shares, but yet if you look in your dashboard, you're getting a lot of engagement because they are clicking on the read more or whatever that is. And I think you have to find your own metrics to be able to measure things from. To know that things are going well. And everybody's going to have a little bit different way of assessing that. So that's a piece of what you have to do. Promote your profiles all over the place, and do that in a way that isn't like icky salesy. Promoting yourself and promoting your skills and your talents and your knowledge and your products and services and offerings is not a bad thing. But when you're jamming that down everybody's throat and everything connects to it, then you might want to rethink it a little bit. So take the natural feel of if your friends and family were doing that to you, would you embrace that with both arms, or would you kind of give it a side hug? That's the best way to look at it. Are you the one creating the uncomfortable side hug environment, or are you embraced with both arms? I love funky analogies. And then really just interact and engage with your followers. This is something that both Brian and I do, and I think he does probably a better job of it and a little more intentional job of some of his sharing and things. I love just being supportive to my community and my tribe of people that are follow and support me. I like to support them back. So my engagement sometimes is really just purely seeing what everybody's up to and encouraging that and cheerleading that a little bit, and lending some support where I can and some insight where I can and knowledge where I can. So I like taking a little bit of time to do that and do some celebrating, some kudos to cool events and birthdays and anniversaries and all the fun stuff. Anything dog related generally will get a little bit of my attention. And so there's always those fun pieces, but then I also am very thoughtful about making sure that I am encouraging people that are small businesses just like mine. So that helps all of us. It helps all of us with the organic pieces. It helps all of us with the reach. So that's what I wanted to follow up with, really just the how to do things, how to increase your connection, increase your engagement. There's a lot of in-depth things that we could go into with metrics and how we look at things differently from a like to a love, or comments or multiple comments, and how they circle, and hashtags and mentions and links and all of the things that go into that. They all have a little bit different weight and a little bit different priority. So we can go into that in great detail, but really I wanted the takeaway to be about thinking about, how you interact, what value you're bringing, how much reach and depth can you do, and how do you do that in a good, solid, organic way that isn't overwhelming. Everything for me has a little bit of a strategy behind it. I'm very much a strategic thinker that takes things from idea to implementation. So if I can get a handle on a little bit of those purpose things early on, the strategy starts sorting out a little bit more. So my guidance to you is to start making those awareness checks and figure out what is the purpose and where do you want to go, and then the strategy will come out of that. So instead of feeling like you have to dig into every single platform all the time with X number of frequency and all these deep and wide things, just having a really good understanding of where you want to go is probably your best bet, and how you currently use it is your best bet. You can always look at what are the improvements right after that. So that's all I wanted to do today. A little follow-up to just get you going and to kind of come full circle with some greater depth of knowledge to share, and hopefully it inspires you a little bit to look at how you use social media, how you might envision doing a few things differently. Take a little assessment without taking a test, but just get a little bit of a handle on how you do that. And if you need any assistance or want to have a thinking partner through that to just process that and figure that out a little bit better, I would love to just sit down and take a look at your content and take a look at how you do that, and we could find some other little gaps and wiggle room to make small adjustments that'll make big impacts. So that's all I have today. Thank you. Have a great day and good, powerful rest of your week, and thanks for tuning in. Bye. This is Amy from Linus Creative and Linus Creative Podcast. So thank you.